Ho! Welcome everybody. François Letal, JDR D30, and I will try to do a short flip through tonight about the book. It will be a nostalgia flip through about a book that I have used a lot in some period of my life, the Player's Handbook, Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. I want to put you in context, okay? I'm not a huge D&D fan. I love role-playing games. I don't hate D&D, but it's not my game of choice. But at some point in my life, it was. And it was when this game came out. Um, right. It was in 1999, for those who remember that time. And it was the big launch of that edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, Dungeons and Dragons was running mainly on the second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons since more than a decade. I think it was even longer than that. Remember that back then that I was literally hating second edition. Though I was being a player in many campaigns back then, um, I didn't really like the version. I found that it was confusing, and every game masters I've gamed with second edition had their own twist of the game. So it proved to me that this game was incoherent if no game masters were agreeing on how to run the game. So my game of choice back then in 1999 was the D6 system and basic role playing. And even 20 years after, there still are two of my game of choice. But when this came out, I was very excited, very excited. What I was reading about what they were doing with Dungeons and Dragons really excited me because, well, the part of what I have liked of Dungeons and Dragons back then, I felt that it was kind of following up with that, but with a more streamlined game system. That's what I was expecting. Um, and yeah, I was just excited by that. I was excited by the people who were working with that. I know that these were great names in role playing games: Monty Cook, Jonathan Tweet, Skip Williams, and at some point I know that where is his name, but Peter Atkinson. People that were Bill Slavicsek. Yeah, I really like that guy. He worked a lot on the D6 system. It felt like they took the people that were, you know, aware of what role-playing game was at that time to make a new version of Dungeons and Dragons. So I really like third edition. I will flip through that book, just reminding me how it was back then. Just a disclaimer, I don't have the firm intention to replay this game, but I don't think I will get rid of this game. Maybe someday I will replay it. Maybe just one module just to remind me how it was. But I do have memories of how it worked. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I really, really did enjoy that version. Um, you know, it was well explained. Something that I had really liked back then is that at last, Dungeons and Dragons was well explained. Um, it was crunchier than second edition in some extent, less complicated, or more crunchy. But I did follow it that quite much. I really like the way they streamline the ability modifiers, how they have changed the saving throws, how streamlined was how the races were made. Okay, it was very clear for me at least. Can't remember, that image. Maybe some of you remember. You had the female version of everything and the male version of the every races that you could have. Yeah, well, lots of text to describe the stuff, but I remember that it was very clear for me. Okay, the classes. Okay, lots of good. Lots of good options there. You had the basic how the sorry, base save and base attack bonus. It was very easy to follow, easier than the previous editions, of course. um, the experience point chart. Well, it was, the half skill max ranks was quite weird. We weren't using that. Why put alpha point there? Okay, we were putting. It was easier to put a full point into something. And the feats, which was something very cool. Okay, all the classes, the bard, barbarian, the cleric. It really felt back then when I was reading that you could really expand the classic classes, but you could really expand them to infinite possibilities, which wasn't something that was feasible, with second edition. Remember, doing a human fighter in second edition. Well, you didn't have that much options, but I felt that I could do a human fighter there, and it was to be unique. I really loved that. The monk, the paladin. Didn't really use monk or paladin in my games that I ran. All other classes was somehow used, but those two, no one really cared about those classes. I wonder how they felt. Maybe if I replay this game, I will suggest some players to use a monk and a fighter. Sorcerer, yes, which was something quite new. All the familiars, rules, multi-classing. Okay, multi-classing felt really easy for me. You're easy to understand. Okay, you yeah, I really love the way they make that. The skills section, yeah, that was something that was really appealing to me. I was already working with game systems that were skill based. Um, like the D6 system and basic role playing, like I've mentioned earlier in this video. So it was very appealing to me. And it was very cool to see, what classes could have access to a skill, what is a class skill, what was a cross class skill, and the way they handle that. Yeah, and all the skill points per modifier. Yeah, there was lots of complaints about the wizard not having that much skill, even though he's very intelligent. But you have to understand the wizard by the end will be very powerful. He will probably put most of his skill points into concentration and what was the skill, spellcraft. Okay, it's stuff that you need when you're a wizard, but by the end, you will be a badass. Skill checks. We know the D20 system. This was the base, the basic of the D20 system. Yeah, skills, feats. I was very excited by feats. Very, very excited. Back then, it felt like opening up infinite possibilities. Okay, skills was a way to personalize your character, but feats, which was the thing that was making your character unique. I, I love unique characters, and yeah, I'm not the kind of guy who wants to min max. It's very easy with feats to min max your character and choose the right feat to be ultra efficient with one type of move or another. But here, I was the kind of player who was choosing more flavorful feats, and I was loving to see what other feats were published in other books or other publications. Or there was, I used to have a big book of feats that I think it was Mongoose who made that. So description, alignment, which as usual, really love the way they handle deities and what the alignment of deities and what sphere they were using. Yeah, vital stats and all that. Equipment, very excellent list of equipment. Yeah. You love the way they handle that. Yeah, I really loved that game back then. Really, really. Combat. Well, combat felt clear to me. Yes, they were crunchy. Back then, I had a lot of time to read that kind of book. So I was, studying it and I was really understanding it. One of the complaint I heard a lot that it was way much too complicated. The complaint still holds for Pathfinder today, though the combats are more clear in Pathfinder than they was there. But it was clear to me. I remember that when I was running the game, it felt right. Okay, we were handling it quite easily. All the attack actions, all the penalties and bonuses that you could have. Injury, death, yes, -10, you're dead. Okay, all the way hit points were handled. Really love that. Movement, position. Yeah. Special attack, subdual damage. Okay, and grappling. The bull rush. Okay, I don't know why I've heard so much complaint about grappling. People saying that it was very complicated. Yes, it is. But personally, I was understanding it. It's just because I just took the time to read it. But we did some grappling scenes, and it was working quite well. That game worked. I know that there are many flaws, but it felt right to me. Adventuring, okay, the magic chapter and the spells, the big chapter of spells, what you couldn't expect less from Dungeons and Dragons. All put in alphabetical order, which was something different than earlier editions. And all the components that you need. And I was using components. Okay, I love the fact that components had to do something, some powerful spells. You need that components. You need that effort to find the stuff you need to cast that spell because some of those spells are really game changing. And the little guide, kind of dungeon master's guide that by the end of the book, just to have something for you to play with before the game came for real. Look at that sheet. That sheet reminds me of a lot of good memories. I won't get it out from there, but I still have, the collection of sheet for every classes, which was very neat. You had the class skill, cross class skill already well written, all the abilities you need depending on your class. If you're a wizard, you have that spell sheet that was well made. Yeah, this was good work. Good work indeed. Yeah. And the famous CD-ROM that you could use. I don't know if it still worked, You need, what did you need for that? Pentium, Windows 95, 98, I don't think it still works. Okay. I love to keep this book. Every time I want to sit down around here and relax, I can check any of those books, but this one is very relaxing for me because it just brings me back to the excitement that was to have this game around. I know that I've played a lot of this, and I was very excited by the D20 system, the idea of it. It has its good side and its bad side, but how can I say it? Back then, when I was entering a hobby shop, all those D20 third-party stuff that was published, every publisher is wanting to grab, the hype of this game. Maybe many of those were not that good, but nevertheless, it was very exciting to come to a shop and flip through those books, maybe to find something that you might need to enhance your game. I remember that I had some of those supplements. One of them, the one that I've used the most, I don't have it anymore, but it was Dragon Lords of Melnibone to play Stormbringer with that game system. It was fun up to 10th level where it didn't felt like Elric anymore, but before that, I was very glad to mix those two, and yeah, it worked. Um, Third edition. So this is the Dungeons and Dragons game that I have the most good memories of. Yeah, can have some memories about D&D Rules Cyclopedia and the Red Box. I can have cool memories about second edition. I hated the game, but I had quite cool games. So this one, I was really invested as a player, as a game master. And when 3.5 came out, I was wondering why. Since that one worked well, it was fulfilling all my needs for playing Dungeons and Dragons, something that was like Dungeons and Dragons. And of course, fourth edition came out, didn't really felt for it. I've tried Pathfinder, which is a very fine game, but this works. And the fifth edition is fine, but no, I'm not that much interested in fifth edition. It's not a bad game. I've read the game. I have the player's handbook. I've one of my friends borrowed it from me, but okay. What can I say? It felt that you can have endless possibilities into that one. Okay, I think that's there was some sort of a freedom. It's like back then it was like getting into Dungeons and Dragons with the freedom of choosing what your character could be. And it was quite chaotic, like I said, with all the third party stuff that was coming out, but it just felt that this game had infinite possibilities. And it's just my impression, but when 3.5 came out, I really felt that all the infinite possibilities were kind of being put together into a more focused way to run Dungeons and Dragons. It didn't felt like infinite anymore. Maybe that's why I haven't followed and Pathfinder at their own way. It felt infinite in the Pathfinder vision, but it's just me, okay, feeling that way. You would try anything and you would just put it there. Was it unbalanced? Well, yes, it was, but real life is unbalanced. Okay. So this was my flip through and maybe loving memories of that game that I've played a lot. Maybe someday I will replay it again. And maybe that will convince me that it's too complicated for nothing. But nevertheless, I have great memories of studying that book and trying to make it feel right, to make it run right. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. To have that kind of love letter to an old game that really made it for me back then. So my start of the 2000s was transported, was brought with this game. This game was part of my life for at least a big 5 years. So yeah, good memories. That's all I had to say tonight. So feel free to leave comments, to deliver your hate about this edition, but yeah, it won't bother to me. You won't break the memories I have of this game. So my name is François Letarte for JDR D30. And up to next time, maybe I will flip through the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual to complete. Okay, but yeah. Up to next time, I hope you have as much fun in your life as in your games. And good night, everyone. I will stop the broadcast now. Supposed